Well, now we can turn the page from fall camp and get into Miami Hurricanes week 1 mode. We are 8 days away. Let's freaking go.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, your host. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. We are available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So it's been a grueling fall camp, because I know that Mario Cristobal and his head coaches have really wanted to improve the physicality, just improve the general speed with which plays are run and snaps are executed in practice. And yeah, if you read between the lines from comments that Mario has made and comments that Charlie Strong made this week, they just want to get these guys more mentally, physically fit and tough to make the differences in fourth quarters when you might be a little bit tired, when other teams may quit. You don't want your guys to quit. But yeah, with fall camp now in the books, let's talk about some of the standouts. Let's talk about some of the MVPs. I think our guest here, he's probably the MVP or one of the MVPs at allhurricanes.com on Sports Illustrated, because this man is grinding 24/7 and doing that for the Miami Hurricane newspaper as well. My colleague Luke Chaney is with us. Luke, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, man. Appreciate it for having me once again. But yeah, 8 days away. It's right here. Fall camp is over. Now we're shifting into to game prep, getting to the schedule of things, and yeah, it's exciting times.
Yeah, and next week throughout the shows that we do on Locked On, I will find a way to make Bethune-Cookman compelling. Like I will find a way to preview that Bethune-Cookman game, making people wonder, well, hey, is this guy on I can't name a single player on Bethune-Cookman now. By next week, I will be able to.
Yes.
But let's talk, Luke, first of all, on Miami's preparedness for game 1, week 1. We got some good sounding news from a health standpoint yesterday, right? With Mario Cristobal speaking. What's the latest on left tackle Zion Nelson, running back Don Chaney, and also, Jaylan Knighton, who was limited in practice this week?
Yeah, so with Zion Nelson, he's not back at practice yet. His availability right now is still more up in the air. I don't see him playing week 1, which should be okay, granted. But his progress, according to Mario, is coming along pretty well. I think this is purely just based off the vibes I'm getting in my prediction. I think he'll be all okay for week 3 Texas A&M. But I mean, as far as his availability for week 1, I wouldn't really expect it. And then you also mentioned Don Chaney. The news we got yesterday was pretty good. All things considered, I think it was pretty good, because there were rumors and one hearsay about Chaney possibly missing a lengthy amount of the season, and that's kind of what I was expecting. But according to what Cristobal said, he's going to miss several weeks, but the injury is less severe than they originally thought. And then Don Chaney came out on Instagram with a story post that said, I think it said I'll be back in 1 month, which would be fantastic for Miami, considering that would coincide with the start of the ACC play. It would actually, if he's out for that 1 month, that would mean he misses the entirety of non-conference play, which leading into a bye week, leading into ACC play against North Carolina on October 8th. So I think that would work out very well for Miami and would be great, especially just heading into that brutal stretch ahead. And then with Jaylan Knighton, he wasn't there on Tuesday's practice open to the media, and it was kind of one of those things where it's we were told don't say anything about the availability report, don't mention who's here, who's not there at practice. I was thinking to myself hey, why is Jaylan not here? What's the deal here? We're not talking Mario after practice. what's going on here? But no, it seemed like it was purely precautionary. He got dinged up a little bit, but he returned to practice. He's all good. Jaylan Knighton's all good. The thin running back room that has unfortunately become more thin due to injuries is okay for now.
So before we get into other specific position groups and Luke Chaney, again, I think his attendance record at practice, it's been better than some of Miami's players. It's been as good as Mario Cristobal. Like he is out there constantly. So he is the authority on this. Luke, let's talk about some MVPs from fall camp, right? So I want us each to give one from the offensive side, one from the defensive side, and then if you have any honorable mentions, other guys who really popped, because I have a few of those. Now, for me on offense, you might agree or you might go in a different direction. I do think Tyler Van Dyke was the offensive MVP, and that's despite the fact that his receivers weren't always consistent. You clearly see the arm, you see the adaptation to a new offense, you see the leadership. I think TVD is fully ready to go.
Yeah, I'm not gonna to be different here. I'm gonna agree. Tyler Van Dyke, he looks better than before, which is crazy because he was truly a top 5 quarterback in the country for those last probably 6 games last season. He was phenomenal, and he looks as good, if not better, like I said. Just ball placement all over the field is incredible. Arm strength, arm talent. His precision on deep passes is just like no other. He's been awesome so far. If I were to give some honorable mentions, I will give one to Jaylan Knighton. He's looked very good so far. Used, like I mentioned previously in some other shows, in various positions around the field, not only as a running back, but as an outside wide receiver. I said the smoothest pass catcher out of the backfield. He's probably going to be, or I expect him to be, RB1. He's going to receive a lot of touches. He's going to look really good this season. If I were to give one more, I think I have to give some love to the offensive line. I'll go John Campbell. Just because he was forced to play a lot of left tackle this camp due to Zion Nelson's injury, and he has responded very well to that. Been playing a bunch of different spots in the offensive line, been playing some on the left, some on the right. Everyone's cross-training there, but just what he's done, being able to, replace, you could say, Zion Nelson's production has been very commendable. And also shout out Jayla Rivers. I think he's had a great season.
What about on the defense? Who's your MVP? And anyone get some honorable mentions?
So MVP on the defense fall camp, I will say Avantae Williams.
Ooh.
I'll go Avantae Williams.
Avantae over James, huh?
I'm going Avantae over James just because there's something about Avantae, man. There's something about Avantae that I think he's going to have a fantastic season. Just so smooth. His movements are just so quick, and he's just an awesome player to watch. Like, not even in a live setting. He's just a very fun player to watch in individual drills. He's that good of a player, and I think he's had that great of a season. I think he could, you could see him towards the end of the season shoot up on some draft boards, given that he will be draft eligible after the season. So, yeah, fall camp MVP on defense. I'm going to go Avantae Williams. Thinking about some honorable mentions. I'll go Daryl Jackson.
My guy.
Yes. All Donno first team preseason member.
He was the first selection. I think that was the first guy. We've done. I think we haven't done any linebackers or defensive backs yet. We've done every other part of the field. He was the first guy that I mentioned,
and well deserved because as Chance Williams said, he is an absolute man child. He is physically just insane. 6'6", 300 pounds, and Mario Cristobal mentioned yesterday, he's been Miami's most consistent interior defender, and that means a lot because there are a lot of bodies in that room. Jake Lichtenstein, Leonard Taylor, Jared Harrison Hunt. There's a lot of good quality rotation defensive or interior linemen at Miami right now, and to say that Jackson has been the most consistent is definitely praiseworthy. He has received a lot of first-team reps, or at least in drills he has, which is, it could be testament to what we might see on the depth chart released next week. And yeah, he is just going to be an absolute beast. Just given his size, it's going to be a mauler, a run stopper, which Miami really needs. They really need that guy up the middle to kind of clog things up. And there's nobody on this team who I think will do that better than Jackson.
Love it. So those are your fall camp MVPs and honorable mentions. And keep it locked right here, guys, because we have a lot more to get to with Luke Chaney coming out of Miami Hurricanes fall camp, preparing for game one, week one, September 3rd against Bethune-Cookman. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Charlie Strong named a certain linebacker as the guy who's having the best camp. I'm going to ask Luke if he's seen it the same way. And we've got to talk about the offensive line. Do we feel good about a starting five just yet, or is there still competition, and is there still enough rotation that we don't have a good idea about that? So we're going to talk about all of that and more, my friends, after we talk about betonline.net. Betonline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find all of your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sporting wagering info, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thanks again for making Locked On Canes your first listen every day. The Ultimate College Football Preview is here, a 7-episode preview with college experts, local team experts, and Odyssey College Football insiders. It's everything you need to be ready for the college football season in one spot. Search for Ultimate College Football Preview on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. So we're here with Luke Chaney from allhurricanes.com on Sports Illustrated. So I was watching Charlie Strong, who I'm a huge fan of, being interviewed on the Miami Athletics YouTube channel this week by Don Bailey Jr. And when Charlie Strong started to talk about which of his linebackers is having the best fall camp, I was expecting him to say Caleb Johnson, but he said Corey Flagg, and he talked about, and Corey Flagg did lead Miami in tackles last year. And Coach Strong started to really talk about how quickly Flagg is learning, how seriously Corey takes the academic parts of the game, team meetings, showing leadership and all that. So, yeah, I mean, maybe Canes fans should be more bullish on Corey Flagg heading into this year than they were as of a couple days ago. Have you seen it the same way, Luke? What's your view been on the linebackers?
Yeah, so, I mean, with Corey Flagg, he does a lot of the little things right, which is someone that you really, really want in your linebacker room. The thing with him, and the thing that has been with him, throughout his college career, is that, physically and athletically, he is limited in some regards. He's not super tall, which, listen, height doesn't mean everything as a linebacker. It doesn't. Some really good shorter linebackers have come through the U. And
John Spence,
I've done some amazing things both in college and in the pros. So height doesn't mean everything, but at the same time, Flagg is, I have a roster right here, actually. No, I can't find it. I think he's like 5'11".
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah, I think he's 5'11". And athletically, he is limited in some regard, So I think even though he has had a very good fall camp, and even though he does a lot of little things right, playing time wise, I'm not gonna be bullish on him just because of that. But at the same time, I think he is someone that, like I said, because he does do a lot of little things right, because he does take good angles, because he does have a very high football IQ. I think you will play some. How much? I'm not sure. I'm not gonna peg him into a starting spot necessarily. But like I said, you really want a guy like Corey Flagg in the room, both as a player on the field who does pretty much everything right, and as a guy, as a leader in the locker room, someone who can kind of keep the rest of the guys accountable.
So let's talk a little bit about the offensive line. You gave some love to John Campbell. You gave him one of your honorable mention for offensive MVPs. And I know that Logan Sogapalu spoke this week, and I'm a big fan of his. Of course, he has the advantage of already knowing Mirabal and Cristobal so well, having played for them in Oregon. That's definitely going to be a guy as a starter, or at least competition to be a starter. He's working out at multiple spots. So on that note, Luke, because there's been so much rotation and cross-training on the O-line, and, part of that's been necessitated by Zion Nelson, not being healthy and available to this point. But, there's been so many moving parts there. Do you feel like you have a good idea about what the starting offensive line is going to look like week 1, assuming that's going to be sans Zion Nelson, or do you think that's really still up in the air for the next 8 days?
Yeah, so I feel much better about projecting the left side of the line than I do the right side. So with this projection in mind, are we saying Nelson in or Nelson out?
Let's say Nelson out, because I'm assuming week 1 he's probably not going to play. So let's say Nelson out.
Cool. Yeah. So I think just given that he's played mostly at his spot during fall camp, I kind of want to peg John Campbell there at left tackle. Jayla Rivers, feel very confident in him at left guard. I feel like Jaylan Rivers is going to have a great season. He's progressing very, very well. Center, Ja'Kai Clark, we've known that since the end of last season.
Yeah.
The right side of the line is where things get interesting, especially when Zion Nelson returns, because right guard, I would peg in Justice. Gonna butcher his last name. I am so sorry.
We call him Justice O because I always say his last name the way it's spelled, even though I know it's wrong. Like I say Justice Oluwaseun. I know it's wrong. I don't know what right is. So.
Yeah. Well, also, just kind of we'll say Justice O as well. Why not? Justice O and Logan Sangapolu. 2-way race there. I would give the edge right now to Sangapolu, just given his familiarity with Alex Miraball's familiarity with Mario Cristobal, and just some of the physical attributes that he has. In the right side line, I would pick in DJ Scaife. But when Nelson comes back, what does that mean for John Campbell? Does that mean Campbell shifts over to the right side of the line? Although I think that I feel pretty confident that Scaife is going to be there at right tackle. I will say with John Campbell, though, given his versatility, he does make for a really good third swing tackle, someone who can kind of alternate between the left and the right side of the line. So when Nelson comes back, I could definitely see Campbell, I guess, being delegated to that role, which I think fits him perfectly.
We're wrapping up Hurricanes fall camp here with Luke Chaney from allhurricanes.com and the Miami Hurricane newspaper. Tyler Van Dyke said in his media availability this week that, he sees definitely some of his receivers being capable of filling Charleston Rambo's shoes from last year, but they have to prove it in games. Like he said that. He thinks he's got guys who are capable, but they have to prove it when the lights are on. Who do you feel best about? Because, Charleston Rambo last year was clearly the #1 target. Mike Harley was clearly the #2 target, and they've both moved on. But we'll focus on filling Rambo's shoes before we focus on Harley. So who do you think could fill Charleston Rambo's shoes this year?
Yeah, so, if I were to make a bet right now, I would say that's more wide receiver 1 by committee, just because there hasn't been that one guy in particular who has necessarily just been the cream of the crop. But at the same time, though, and I wasn't there for fall camp last year, who knows if Charleston Rambo necessarily separated himself in fall camp.
Not nearly as much as you would have thought. We didn't go into last year thinking, oh, this guy's going to dominate the way he did. Like he really made it count when the games counted. Yeah,
so it's really a kind of a we'll see what happens type thing. We'll see who Tyler Van Dyke really connects with in game. If I were to think right now who would be that guy, the guy I've been saying since spring, Jacoby George, just that gut feeling about him, man. Just that gut feeling. Moves so well, smooth route runner, smooth after the catch. Can be used in a multitude of ways. You can use him one-on-one downfield. You can use him on end arounds. You can use him on quick screen passes. You can run routes with him through into the middle of the field. His versatility is awesome, purely awesome. Will he turn into that #1 guy? I'm not sure, but if I were to make a bet right now, I would pick him. Looking at some of the other guys, I feel way more comfortable with Xavier Struckle, kind of pegging him into that #2 or #3 role. Just given that he will be in the slot, a lot of his routes will, or mostly all of his routes will come from him being in the slot. I think he will find a lot of success in that role, but at the same time, as #1 guy, I'm not sure. Keyshawn Smith is someone that I feel way more comfortable labeling as a compliment to a number one guy. He is someone that has been good, not fantastic, since spring practice, and someone who I think will show flashes of number one potential, but consistency-wise, I'm not sure. I guess a dark horse in that is Romelo Brinson, someone that a lot of Canes fans are super, super high on, and for good reason. Super talented, makes the most ridiculous acrobatic catches.
He's first team all Donno, and that was more on our listener. Like, I'm not saying I don't like him, but when I'm compiling the first team all Donno, which is really first team all Locked On Canes, I go by who I hype up a lot and who the audience hypes up a lot, and the audience loves Romelo.
Yeah, fans love Romelo, and for good reason. Like I said, very talented receiver. Just still playing catch up in a way because he did miss the entirety of spring due to his injury, which is tough in a new system like Josh Gaddis's, which is I would label as somewhat complex in a way, not Dan Enos weirdly complex. We'll say player adaptive or player friendly complex. That's how we'll label his offense. But yeah, he's still playing catch up in a way, but at the same time, I do expect him to have a role. He's someone that maybe could develop into that guy later in the season. We'll see, but I am very high on Romelo. And who knows? There could be a dark horse that I'm not even talking about that could develop into that guy. Maybe a Frank Latz. Maybe he can kind of put.
Yeah, and let's pick up on that note because you hadn't mentioned his name until right now. And on Thursday's episode of Locked On Canes, we talked about most explosive players on the team, like candidates to really be the type of guys who can turn the game on its head with one play. And at no point in yesterday's episode did I mention Frank Ladson, and people noticed that. I had multiple comments like, "Hey, what about Ladson?" He's been quiet, right? I mean, I love his experience. I love coming out of Clemson. This guy understands what it means to be on a winning team. But what's been the story with Ladson in camp?
Yeah, so with Latz, he's really been competing with Keyshawn Smith at the X receiver spot. And the thing with Latson is that it's just his consistency, with his hands. That was his thing coming out of I believe South Dade as a high school prospect. Super talented, can run really well. Pretty solid route runner most of the time. Good jump ball receiver. He has all the traits that you want. But just his hands, his consistency, those are the things. And those are the things that really plagued him at Clemson. And those are the things that still continue to be somewhat of a thing at Miami. It's unrealistic in a way to expect a major change from a player what I think is fourth year of college now, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Yeah, something like that. I'll let that one slide.
But I mean, listen, we'll see what happens. Charleston Rambo coming out of Oklahoma had some same inconsistent concerns. No one really pegged him as that 12 or 1,100 yards in a season type guy. So Frank Latson has the tools. I think he has the potential. Maybe he can put everything together. I'm not ruling it out. That's all I'm saying. I'm not ruling it out.
Well, I always enjoy talking to you, and we'll have to do this again next week. And I'm going to make you study Bethune-Cookman top to bottom, so we can talk about the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. Luke Chaney, you see where to follow him on Twitter at Luke_Chaney4. Check out his work at allhurricanes.com and at the Miami Hurricane. Luke, thank you so much for taking the time, my friend, and enjoy your weekend coming up.
Hey man, you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Always a pleasure. All right, guys, when we come back, I'm going to go rapid fire through a couple of recruiting notes. Miami Hurricanes commit Emery Williams. Is he getting some looks from other programs now? And Miami has been named number 1 at a very important distinction. We'll get to that next. Keep it locked to Locked On Canes. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, available free on YouTube. So according to Cane Sport, Matt Shodell and Gary Furman. I think Shodell wrote this piece specifically. So 3-star Miami Hurricanes quarterback commit. And I think by the time national letters of intent are signed, I think he's going to be a 4-star by that point. According to Kane Sport, Emery Williams is turning down visits to other schools, and he is staying firm with his Miami commit. There's been a lot of questions about Emery for 2 reasons. Number one, Miami just discovered him out of Milton High School in the Panhandle. Miami discovered him before any other major program did. So with Miami being the team that showed him the love very early, they might have been his first major offer. I'm not 100% sure on that, but Miami was very much ahead of the pack on Emery Williams. You know, people were wondering, well, now that the secret's out, because he had a really good Elite 11 finals and everybody knows how good he is now, that just, you know, maybe he's a risk for a possible flip because so many other big schools are going to get into the mix. That's number one. And then number two is, being in the same class verbally committed with Jaden Rashada, it's congesting the quarterback room now. People wondering if he might decide, you know what, let me go somewhere else where I'm clearly the top guy. So Emery Williams recently landed a new offer from Cal this week. No official visit is planned there per Kane Sport. And there have been reports the last couple weeks that he would take an official visit to Auburn, where he has an offer from the Auburn Tigers. And a source close to the school says Williams will not be taking that visit. So he's not visiting Auburn. Maybe he's not even interested in visiting Cal. There will be no official visit to Auburn. There are no official visit plans at all, but Emery will go to Miami to catch a game, they say. So we still got, handful of months before you get this one over the finish line, but it's looking good right now for Emery Williams. Kid wants to be Kane. Simple as that. He wants to be a Kane. Got a question on Twitter. And by the way, you can tweet us. The show account is at Locked On Canes. Follow us. We will follow you back. You can also tweet me at my personal handle at Alex Donno, Donno spelled D-O-N-N-O. Polk Kane asked, with the injuries to the running back room, do you see Brashard Smith getting snaps in the backfield? So Brashard Smith, I think he got 20 was his snap count in the backfield last year. He's Miami's slot receiver, Swiss Army knife, can play all over the field. Getting him some reps in the backfield, I think that might have been part of the plan anyway. And listen, the 20 snaps he got in the backfield last year, obviously different coaching staff, completely different offensive philosophy. But to me, I think that Brashard Smith is such a weapon all over the field, whether you line him up in the slot, line him up out wide, line him up in the backfield. He can hurt opponents in so many different ways and he can create mismatches in so many different ways. You might see some of that. You might see some of that experimentation, okay? That was one of the early reports that I got for, some of the spring practices from my pal Brian Monroe, former Miami Hurricanes player, where he told me, don't be surprised if you see Brashard Smith lining up in the backfield sometimes. Guys, I think that might have been part of the plan anyway. At the same time, if you're asking me and I'm putting words in Polk Kane's mouth because this might not have been his point. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But if you're asking me, is the running back room so in need of just moving a guy to a different position because they're so decimated? It's not that bad, right? Because Jaylan Knighton seems like he's fine. Chaney may only miss the first 3 or 4 games, and you still have Henry Parrish, Thad Franklin, Devin Perry, who I believe in, among others, in that backfield as well. So I don't think Miami is in this situation where we've got to get Brashard Smith as a regular in the backfield. No, you might do some of that just for exploiting matchups and creativity. Josh Gaddis may have, a special formation formulated for taking advantage of mismatches, but I don't think you're in such bad shape at running back that you need to think about, hey, Brashard Smith's a running back now. No, he's a wide receiver, okay? Oh, man. We might have to devote a little bit more time on this on a weekend episode. Miami fans, University of Miami football fans, have been named the cockiest college football fans according to a Big Game Boomer survey. Cockiest college football fans. I'm throwing up my U. We're number one. We're number one. We're number one. That'll do it for this episode. We will have more over the weekend, guys. So make sure you support the show. Hit the like button, subscribe to all of our channels, audio and video. We'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. And hey, make sure you make Locked On ACC your second listen every day, because Candace Cooper and the local experts of Locked On take you across the conference in 30 minutes. Make Locked On ACC your second listen. Thank you for making us your first. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.